Okay, so welcome everybody. So we're having our next session of Start MasterClass, and for today, I have a very special guest who is of a very rare quality, I think. His name is Mr. Kim Pham, and he comes to us from Hanoi in Vietnam, where he has his own company, CoHost AI. So, as we can see on Mr. Kim's record, he is very, very specialized in a few things. I believe Kim got a PhD at the University of Illinois, specifically in the design of search engines. After that, he worked at Google. He's a founder, I think, two times now, and he worked at Airbnb on the search, pricing, and some of the algorithms that powered Airbnb. So it is with extreme happiness and gratitude that I'd like to welcome Mr. Kim to our Start Masterclass today, where some of our team have actually been very curious to ask questions. And if, of course, if anytime, Mr. Kim, if these questions are sort of confidential or whatever you can't reveal about it, then please just let us know. We're just very curious. We've been trying to understand the principles behind how a lot of these search algorithms work, but it's never been very satisfying because it's always guesswork, right? We're trying to figure out is this right or not. So it's enormously, I think, uplifting to actually speak with somebody who actually knows about it. But I'll turn the floor over to you, Mr. Kim, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background and where you are today with CoHost AI.
Okay. Hi everyone. I was actually a little bit underprepared, so but I would love to take it as a chance to go like YOLO it if you will. uh, I love to YOLO. But hopefully I can hopefully after this one, if it passed, I can get to do another will.
We would
uh,
love that. We'd love to have a series just on search engineering. Okay,
yeah,
great.
yeah. So I guess today maybe I just introduce myself and see how I can my background and experience and or maybe some of the things that my team and I have been building can be helpful. So with that, I guess I could just start.
Okay,
Um,
sure.
I was born and raised in Vietnam, and then I got into computer science, got a scholarship to Australia, where one of like it's like my dream place where I can learn about software engineering at University of New South Wales, where I got into doing. I got introduced to a team called Robot for Robots Cup, which is a competition to make to program a four-legged robots produced by Sony, and we program it so that it can play soccer. It's a team of four robots playing the game of soccer. So I was tasked to doing like programming the running operations, basically to control the robot so that it can walk. It was fun, and that's how I got into AI and machine learning and all that stuff. In still the early day, nobody quite talk about it, which but the good thing is I got a chance to go to the US to study more about AI. Um, um, this is where when I joined University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where I studied, and I met a professor who was friends of Larry Page at Google. And so, the professor was really nice, and they taught us all about search engines, um, and he actually was doing a startup himself. So he kind of brought the Silicon Valley kind of spirit into a cornfield of banana champagne, and we very gratitude uh, uh, for that. This is where I decided that PhD was not my thing, so I dropped out of PhD. Um, did a startup but failed, and then joined Google as a software engineer. And I stayed at Google for 4 years doing search engines, trying to do um, uh, search queries that are structured, that are like who are the U.S. presidents, and so you can and nowadays people call it a one box. They call it a knowledge panel. So Google become like a knowledge engine, if you will, at that time, and search become more like a question answering system, more like an AI, if you will.
Yes.
Before that, Google was like just a web page, but now they know a lot about you and know a lot about things around you, which is kind of it's a very exciting time. Um, and then uh, I I got married, got a kids, got a son, and my family went out to travel to Los Angeles for the first time, and we stumbled upon Airbnb as a place to stay. And, and then after the trip, about 2 weeks after the trip, I got a message on LinkedIn by Maxim Jacob.
Wow, the Maxim Trekov. Okay, yeah, I've watched his videos before. Yeah.
and and he asked me if I want to come and interview at Airbnb, and so out of curiosity, I did, and then I got a job. I got really interested in Airbnb, and I got a job there as a search engineer, joining Mark's team, and uh, I joined it as an engineer number 100. At that time, we still pretty small, and then I stayed there for about 2.5 years, and working on many a couple of products. First, search, working on indexing, the time, the calendar, and pricings. Trying to do very bit because Airbnb search was a lot about price and availability, which then prompted us to many features to optimize. How do you recommend a good listings that have a good price? Some and then we know that pricing and availability is not always like 100% correct, and so we have to introduce a little bit of probability there, and then turn that probability into like a pricing engine later on, and become like smart pricing. So we know people are searching, and some listings are really good, right? But the owner, they maybe don't have time to update the price, and so we build an engine um, to recommend price to the host so that they can just click,
Right.
and they get a price, a competitive price, and that would match with demand. Sometimes lower, sometimes it's higher. So almost 80% of pricing of listings on Airbnb was priced using that algorithm.
Okay.
And then and so I left. So it was 2016, and we were I got into a thing called chatbot, kind of phrase. uh, um, uh, so I wanted to build an AI machines that can talk to people. And I kind of want to do that as Airbnb, because at Airbnb we have a lot of question and conversation between host and guest.
Hmm.
And so I came up with the ideas, and we tried to prototype it at Airbnb. Um, it People love it, but then nobody, because of the priority, we never get a chance to do it at Airbnb.
Got it.
And so with my family, that was wanted to me to go back to Vietnam. So I decided to leave Airbnb and start my own journey with the idea of building an Airbnb chatbot.
Okay.
But that is very naive. That is very naive, and it's pretty small kind of use case that people want. So some people really love it, some people don't, because Airbnb is all about human connections, and having a real people chatting um, is meaningful.
Mm.
And so that's what I learned. When you got an idea and you want to start a startup, it might be a crazy idea, but you need to find out what people actually want. um, so uh, so that is the start of my startup journey, which might be people more interested in than the stuff that I learned. Um, 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 and so we really found out that out of the people who really like the chatbot are the one who manage a lot of properties. Probably something like you guys, who have like hundreds of properties, and you have a very small team, maybe one or two people operating the whole uh, range of locations, and so we start talking to these property managers and learn what their issues are, why they not be able to scale up fast.
Right.
And so one of the issues was um, so one of the issues was that they have to manage a lot of things, and a lot of um, first you have a lot of message to automate. A lot of things that like boring stuff can be
Yeah.
automated by a chatbot, or simply like a timer, if you will. You
Yep.
send out messages at the right time to the right guest, um, and um, that's one issue. The other one was managing the calendar, because we have calendar is the central things that people work. People like the property manager work with all days. They look at calendars all days, try to fill it, and try to manage availability, try to manage pricings, try to move gas around when there's some breakage in, like a pipe breakage, for example.
That's right.
Uh, so that's the other thing that property managers need, and then it's involved into other features like um, uh, you know sales and marketing. So um, especially when you scale beyond Airbnb,
Hmm.
um, you started to have to manage, try to bring the good feature that Airbnb has, but other platform
I see.
like Booking.com or Agoda Homes may not have. Um,
Got it.
uh,
There's
so
this is a really good point. I just had this question just pop in my head, Mr. Kim, and thank you for the very detailed journey. It's quite inspirational just to listen to it.
yeah.
And I had this question that was always sitting on the back of my mind, which was about this idea. And you're probably the best person to ask, which was, is it better to, let's say, reserve your availability and be the best on one platform, or would it be better to distribute across different platforms? And the reason I ask for that is because I understand it has two implications. The more often
Mm-hmm.
you are distributed on different platforms, the fewer number of times you will show as being available on those platforms because you're being booked on other platforms. So I know
Yeah.
that search results are positive feedback cycles. And by being shown less, ultimately you'll be ranked lower. So
Mhm.
one of my hypotheses was that if I put myself, it's better to put all my eggs in one basket. That's the big basket that wins, rather than putting my eggs in three baskets and being kind of small. The
Mhm.
analogy I made to that was it's like planting a plant. If you put three plants in one pot, either three plants won't really make it very well. So it's better just to put one plant in one pot. Is there any sort of knowledge from your side that would say that yeah, that's correct, or no, that there is a way that you can share across different platforms to get optimal revenue?
Right, right. My that's a very, very, very good question. Thanks for bringing that up. Um, I would love to learn more about this myself. I'm trying to think out from my insight, from my data that we have. Um, we um, from from the client that I worked with, all of them have like 80% of revenue coming from Airbnb.
Right,
Um, and but the other 20% is still meaningful, and so they wanted to feel to bring that in as like if they don't do it, then like Airbnb, you max out one platform,
right.
then the solution is to bring in more traffic from other platforms. So there's no questions that why you should do it, right? Because you should. um, Unless you are in a very highly dense locations where you are like 95% filled
Right. Okay.
on Airbnb, then that doesn't make sense if like 5% is not worth the hassle to manage another platform.
I see. The question then would be if you had that, would that 20% belong back to Airbnb anyway, had you made it available to Airbnb? Like, if let's say this was always my thought because I'm actually very pro Airbnb. I go and because our company does pretty well on Airbnb. I think we get about 95% of our income from Airbnb. And I've
Right.
noticed that what my initial strategy was I didn't want any other platform to grow in our area because I knew if another platform grew in our area, then we might not be able to rank so high because hotels on Booking.com rank higher than we did. But since we began on Airbnb with a high ranking, I realized that I had a choice, right? I could spread a listing, a property on multiple platforms, and thereby I know it's kind of like vice versa, right? I would help that platform all of a sudden start becoming more popular in that area too. Or I could
Mhm.
say I just keep it with Airbnb because I trust Airbnb will get me the occupancy I need. Um, and the way I was always able to tell myself that was that I looked at logarithmic decay on ranking. So I knew that
Mhm.
if I had, let's say, first page ranking, I would get probably hundreds of times more views than second page ranking and thousands of times more than third page ranking. But
Yeah.
what I thought was if I spread it through different platforms, I realized even on Airbnb, two listings of the same property, they would never be able to both be top ranked. One would ultimately cannibalize the other and force the other into like a minimum. So two
Yeah.
identical listings ranked, one would start dominating, and then that
Mhm.
positive would push the other one down. And pretty soon, the second listing, even on the same platform, was
Right.
basically annihilated. So I started wondering if that would happen across different platforms. That essentially the strong one would essentially just win anyway in the end. So what's the difference, right, of putting it on different platforms? But I don't know if there's any insight from your side.
So I know Airbnb has a algorithms to uh, remove duplicate. Like if you have like three listings, you never have three listings showing on one page.
Diversity filter.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why like managing the calendar is important because um, you wanted to because yeah, if your top listing is booked, then the other listing might not show up well. I guess you have to optimize for all of these listings.
Right.
And and yeah, unfortunately I don't have a good data to show that because I'm also biased. Most of the clients we have pro Airbnb. Uh,
Okay. Maybe now's a good time to show us the chatbot. So the way I understand it is that the this is actually you're absolutely right, Mr. Kim. So one of the biggest frictions that we've seen is we created an entire funnel of our business output from impressions to inquiries to bookings and reservations all the way to checkout and reviews. And the one part that I would say is the least scalable is that part from going from inquiries into reservations. It
mhm,
requires,
mhm.
I think, a lot of craftsmanship and individual talent to be able to have the right timing, but also have the right proficiency and the skill and the knowledge base that's
Yeah.
necessary to correctly convert an inquiry. So maybe you can show us how co-host works and how that would actually uh, sort of take advantage of the situation.
Right. So I love to show you the chatbot. Uh, however, the only one I can show right now is from a page that I already like my engineer is already. Let me see. Um, uh, yeah. So let me see. I need to.
Oh, no worries, Mr. Kim. Would you like a few minutes to get that organized?
Fine. Yeah. So we are making a video to show you like how the chatbot is working, but I can show you what's I guess the overall platform is
Sure.
designed first.
Okay, let's go.
And
Let's go
and
take a look at that.
because this is a working in progress.
Of course, all
So,
startups are works in progress.
yeah. So um, do you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Co-host
Yeah, so
club. Okay,
to continue, yeah, basically that's like the initial idea to build this co-host club is initially we wanted to save time and automate a lot of stuff using like the best technologies available to help with hosting, to help with hospitality and customer service. We spent we spent a lot of our time actually was to help with this co-hosts who so out of these property managers also we, we, we we actually zoom in into one small segment called co-hosts who are the people who actually don't rent out a place but actually wanted to cooperate and so the way it works is that for hosts and co-hosts they like um, traditionally it's like they would like the co-host would rent place for host and traditionally the property managers would rent out a place and manage it and take the profit out of it um, and this is called rent arbitrage. However, like Airbnb, the notion of Airbnb co-hosts were actually very good that we wanted to adopt it. So if you remember, Airbnb has a co-host features that share the revenue to that share the revenue with host, and co-host that which that means is that the co-host doesn't have to pay the rent to the host.
understood.
and it came out like in about in 2018, um, and then the revenue sharing features was discontinued, and so it troubled me, and I realized that actually I should do something about it, and so we popularized this idea of doing a revenue sharing models,
Mhm.
and so a co-host actually can sign into I mean sign up to our club, and we do the kind of the matchings that Airbnb used to do. Um, 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 and so a co-host would come in and um, they would when they sign in they would get shown host around them, and then they can chat with each other through our app, and they can agree on the percentage of co-hostings, and then they start and working on the properties. So here is uh, um, screen where a co-host will now I'm a co-host, and I have a lot of hosts that I work with. For example, this guy, and I help this host. His name is Pham, and he has two properties, as you can see from the calendar. He has two properties here. Oops. And I help fill in the guest to his property. These are like a medium-term guest. We have some daily guests as well, and see the dot here. This is like an hourly guest.
Okay.
Uh, so sometimes there's like guests who just come and do photo shootings in one of our when COVID happens, and they use the space in a very creative way.
Okay.
And co-hosts will do all of those things for the host. And so the result is like, here's the result. This month we earned like 33 million Vietnamese dong, which is about $2,000 US dollars. And with this expense of 3 millions, so about 10% of operating expense, and we make a profit of 30 millions. And then we can look at this result and we say, hey, co-host got 20% and the host got 80%. Therefore, we are supposed to earn this much. And because the money was um, um, collected in the co-host account, so the co-host have to pay the host 24 millions. So you can see this is we kind of doing the accounting here for them. To make it easy for host and co-host to track their expenses and income, and help them become foster this trust between host and co-host. So that's the current, that's the kind of the idea of co-host club. But we are currently now working, again, coming back to the chatbot features. We currently we have like automations, which is like this is like probably something you very familiar with. This is like, yeah, you can add a rules that say ask the ID, because in Vietnam everyone's supposed to show IDs, and we do it online. So if the reservation is confirmed, then 1 minute after, we wanted to ask the ID, and that um, the, uh, uh, the message can be customized in many different languages, different way to send messages, different event triggering, and so on. So this is like a not quite a chatbot, but this is like a very like one-way chatbot, if you will, right? We also have a currently like I just want to show you what we currently have. We have a so we also have a small NLP modules. We can say that if the inquiry message is asking about, so we have this intent, And so you can say, oh, if the guest is asking about Wi-Fi, right? And then we can send it right away. Uh, um, then we can, sorry, this is supposed to have a, yeah, so we can send to the guest and we can add a, um, let's say check-in info. So in the check-in info, we have the Wi-Fi password, as you can see here. Um, yeah, so this is a very simple chatbot, if you will.
Cool.
And let's see if it works. we can try. Let's see. So let's say Wi-Fi, um, and then then we have to select the listings that we want to apply. So here I just say all. So there's 2 listings on Airbnb and 1 listing on Booking.com here. So, and I want to activate it and then save. Yeah, so that in a nutshell is a chatbot. So let's see. Let's try if it works. I should have tested it, but it might.
More fun this way.
So let's see. So I can send you the let's see. I can send you the Airbnb,
Sure.
and you guys can help me.
Let's go over to who wants to write to Kim's chatbot. Vinny, you look happy to try this out. Vinny, can we give it to you, Vinny?
Yep. So I will access the URL.
Yes, please. So I guess
I
we'll
sent
send
on
you
the chat message. Yeah, so this is the listings.
and see what happens if we ask him about the Wi-Fi password. Okay, this will be fun.
So I just make an inquiry.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay. I guess while we're working on that, I remember Mr. Kim, you also mentioned that you had a lot of experience doing pricing negotiation with owners, and owners sometimes have. I always thought that that was a tricky one for smart pricing because, like, a lot of people, I heard their feedback was, "Oh, smart pricing is always recommending too low," but I think having recommended prices to owners before, it's it's hard to get people to understand that pricing isn't permanent. Just like the aspect of a rental is never permanent either. You're selling essentially time. So maybe you're
Yeah.
selling low today so that you get a better ranking tomorrow so you can sell a bit higher.
Yeah.
Did you find any effective ways or tools or UI systems or ways of communicating that type of persuasion to get people to be more enthusiastic to use your AI guided advice? And is that being incorporated in CoHost at the moment?
No, we haven't incorporated that into co-host yet. Um, I had an online course where I talked about pricing, and essentially we have to explain uh, this graph called. So I had to draw pictures, and I had to show them by um, moving the price. And I had to. So there's like um, one axis was price, and one axis is the demand, right?
Right.
And you have to explain that to them that with more price, the higher the price, the lower the demand, right? Small price, you have a lot of demand for small price, and so it become like a curve, like
Okay.
a circle, like this. And so each point you set the price, you get the revenue. Your revenue is actually the area under the curve.
Of course, of course.
Yeah. So by moving the price, you get different area, right?
Mhm.
And so if you set the too high of the price, then your area was like this flat, and which is not optimal. If you set the price too low, then you also got this stripe, which is also very small. But if you move it to the right place, then you become a square, close to a square, and the square will give you the highest angle mathematically.
Yes.
And so that essentially the what we try to teach people to go and talk to hosts like that. And they get it. They get it.
Okay. That's a good one. I remember using, it was called a logit price response function, which was essentially like an S curve that we were trying to look at. And we believed, actually, this is another good question. Look, if I can show you the screen real quick, does pricing sort of follow this type of demand curve where there's like a sweet spot and then there's a large amount of roll off, or do you see a more of like a gradual decay? Is it like this was another thing I was wondering about quite a lot, which was, is there like a magic price and what is the wings around that? Like if you get a little bit too far, you fall off and you get zero demand. And if you get a little bit too cheap, you reach your maximum demand right away. Um, is this a common shape, or is the shape that you've experienced a little bit different?
Um, so we kind of estimated the demand using a logic functions.
Okay.
However, it's like it's not one functions. We The way we did it was it become like a many stripe. So it become like yeah. So you actually combine a lot of so this range you doing one function, this range you're doing another functions, um, and um, but so yeah. So so you try to use basically here you try to use one set of parameters like so alpha and beta to estimate this demand curve, right?
Hmm.
Uh, but in reality, we actually can use many of them, so we can put like maybe 10 set of parameters.
Oh wow.
Uh, yeah, and so it and let the algorithm learn um, there. So it could be very close to this. It
Okay.
could be that at low price, it can be actually lower as well.
Okay.
Um, so um, yeah, so I don't have a good answer to this, but because the machine actually does that,
Ah,
we
right. Of course. Of course. Of course.
quite understand.
Okay.
Uh, but if I can remember, I try to remember what's the um, um, yeah, one of the best thing is that it very the way why like we try to understand why the algorithm works. And one of the reasons it works was that because uh, it responds very well to demand.
Hmm.
Um, so overnight, you say if there is a problem in an area and there's no demand, the price was adapted, updated right away based on the previous day. And also it's kind of recorrect correct the behavior of the so if it make a predictions and if it got it wrong, the algorithm will penalize it by pulling the price back to the kind of the optimal parameters.
Got it. Got it.
And so basically the next day, the result from one day is the feedback for the next day. So it
Got it.
responds very quickly.
Okay. Okay. That's cool. Let's go over to Vidi. Vidi, what's the update? Did we get the response back from the
So
chatbot?
yeah. We got the response back. Let me share my screen. So yeah, this is my first inquiry on Airbnb.
Oh,
I said like, "Hi, good afternoon. What is the Wi-Fi password for this accommodation?" And there is an automated. I believe this automated, an automated message,
uh-huh.
right? And we see that the Wi-Fi information is not is still hidden because we have not booked it.
Ah. That oh man, that white website blocker is so annoying. Okay, I guess
Uh,
debugging. We do debugging the situation. Okay, interesting. But I mean, added to this, I think what you're doing, Mr. Kim, is really challenging because, as you said just before, you're bridging that world between, and we're in the very same situation, right? You're trying to bridge the world of hospitality with like a technology bridge, and it is yeah, it's I feel like sometimes like probably where tablet computing is sometimes, right? It's like it's ultimately going to get there, but we have to like figure out the nuances and how to get those parts right. Um, okay.
mhm.
Is there any other features you'd like to show us on the co-host panel, Mr. Kim?
um, um, yeah. So that's um, that's in a nutshell. That's pretty much I have prepared. I could talk about what coming and if you will, because nowadays like we so talking about platform, like people are not so hot about putting on Airbnb and then booking and then Agoda, because sometimes booking and Agoda is kind of competing with Airbnb, and also they like you say, sometimes it cannibalize each other because they both appear on Google, and one like also booking and also have a weird policy of price parity, so you cannot set the price differently. And with smart pricing, it makes it very challenging because with Airbnb we set the price like dynamically, and if we and Booking.com doesn't like that. However, there's the new area where a lot of this thing is coming, which is Facebook, and social networks. So a lot of these guests, and they're not just using Booking.com to book and or Agoda. They actually go to book on Facebook, and Facebook is very recognizing that, right? They support. They're building a lot of these new marketplace or features that let people actually book. Firstly, they did it with shopping. As now you can buy, you can shop clothes or shoes around your areas on Facebook. And I believe the next thing would be travel. And so we are working on integrating this more natively with Facebook as well.
Mhm.
And the chatbot feature is actually a good way to do that, because on Facebook, Airbnb may have 2 million guests per night, but Facebook may have like 2 billion people on
That's true.
per day. Yeah, so that's a crazy different weird huge scale, and we need technologies to manage it well, and so
That's
that's what we doing next.
That's
Yeah,
a good point.
so
That's a good point. We've been seeing more and more bookings on our own side from Facebook, and it's been growing actually quite a bit as Lewis and Vinny have seen. This is amazing. Okay, um, let me kind of like explore this idea of I guess we were I'm kind of curious because I did see once upon a time you were hosting your own home on Airbnb,
mhm.
and you got Superhost, and you got it also I think number one on Google for Santa Clara kids friendly Airbnb. And
Yeah.
I've always been curious about like how that would work, right? Like are you and whether or not like okay, Google is a gigantic traffic source too as well. But the traffic, I wonder if it's kind of blocked in a way, right? Because they would need an Airbnb account just to be able to book. So even if let's say you could bring in equal traffic on Google, the traffic on Airbnb would likely to convert more because they're already inside the platform, they can transact. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, was what sort of was that a fun process to like optimize your listing on Google, and like was it worthwhile in the end for you?
That was back in the day. I didn't do that intentionally. It was just a fun thing that I found out. But we have been doing some of that part to kind of build our own website
Right.
and serve this niche of a traveler, and it works really well, especially during the pandemic. People are shifting to local travel, and
Mhm.
so we are optimizing like SEO for like local what do you call, like urban trip, something like that, but in Vietnamese. Um, and it actually worked great because yeah, because people turning into Google
Okay.
and others place. So
Excellent.
um, yeah, but initially, Airbnb has a good SEO actually. So you should also optimize the title, and if you find out a niche, you should add some of those into your title
Ah,
on Airbnb listing.
okay.
Uh,
Okay.
a lot of people I noticed were putting like room number on the title, which is a waste
Yes,
because
I agree.
yeah, the title has a lot of SEO weight
I see.
um, on Google.
Okay. Okay. That's a great tip. That's kind of another fun. Did you? This is just a pop in my head. Did you put that on smart pricing for your own home?
Put what?
Did you put your own home on smart pricing?
Oh, my own home on smart pricing. Yeah, of course.
And I'm kind of curious, like, does it ever surprise you, or do you like, because a lot of it has to do with, I guess, how the rest of your community behaves, right? And what's happening around your home. Did you
Yeah.
ever get any sort of surprising, like, oh, why are they, why is it moving the price up on this day, and then like 2 days later you discover there's like, like a concert in town, or was it mostly like, I ask because sometimes I remember, uh, I just hear stories of like where AI does something that like no human would have done. I think it was like in the case of playing Go, they do these things and you're like, that doesn't look right at all. But in the end, it happens to be, yes, it is right, because if you just listen to the AI, it'll figure it out. Did you ever notice that, like any sort of counterintuitive sort of movements in pricing based on what you could see in your own sort of experience?
Yeah. So because I work at Airbnb, so I kind of understand like how it's priced very well. So it wasn't a surprise. I guess the only surprise that I had was like we pick up the search pricing a little bit slower than people.
Uh,
So in my area, usually like when events coming up,
uh
usually the people are booked like 6 months ahead of
Right.
time, and so we a little bit at that time when I was still at Airbnb, we are a little bit slower to pick that up.
I see. Okay.
We're really good at picking last minute booking, uh,
Uh,
but but further ahead, we didn't do it so well. So usually, yeah, at one point I was thinking of a feature to you get people crowdsource on the events
right.
uh, and share with the local neighborhoods.
We saw that actually. Yeah, I saw that there was a lot of programs creating like almost like TripAdvisor on Airbnb,
Yeah,
where people are. Oh, so that had, okay, pricing implications. I didn't. Okay. All right.
yeah,
Cool. 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 Cool.
yeah. So sometimes humans does better than the machines.
I see. Okay. I
Yeah.
asked because a lot of times what I heard, the feedback that I heard was like, oh, like it's like you just mentioned. I know there's an event, and why isn't it raising the price for Christmas, or why is it not raising the price for Burning Man Festival? And
Right.
and, uh, and then they would discount it. But then I remember seeing sometimes like maybe the AI knows better, right? Maybe the AI is planning something. Maybe they're planning to hold out until the highest priced person comes in at the very end, and then surprise you. So, okay, all right, that's
Yeah.
interesting to know. And I also had this question that I've been thinking about for a while, which is about optimizing pricing, which was like at some point, I think I agree with you. Pricing is a probability; it's never a fact. It's a little bit like gambling. I place at this price, and if I get it right, then I win. But if I get it wrong, I get zero. And so, what I always thought of it was there's probably some correlations related to like the probability of a certain date getting sold. And so, I would always see each date as a probability, right? Okay, here's the probability function, and then I would have numerator and denominator in that function. In the numerator, I always put like, okay, the traffic. If it gets a lot of traffic, then that's positively correlated to a probability of sale. I'd put the date delta, I think is the other word you use, which is the span of booking. If it has a long booking window, then I'm more likely to get this thing booked.
Mhm.
The price was a negative correlation, which was the higher the price, it's inversely proportional to the probability of sale. The occupancy was also negative correlation because the more occupied it is, the harder it is to actually find a date that fits. And then the runway, which is how much time you have from today until the actual date, that was also a negative correlation. The shorter the runway, the less likely you are to. Actually, that's a positive correlation. Sorry. And then I would then sort of do this in my head and calculate like the probability of each date being sold, right? So I'd look at like, okay, a month ahead, I'm looking at the traffic. Traffic looks good. I got a long date delta. I got a long runway. I would divide that and say, okay, all right, I'm looking good. It usually takes 7 days to sell it. I got 40 days, so that part is good. And I can bring up the price to like balance my probability function. So
Right.
based on that, it always ended up being a very similar plan, which was the price for future dates would always be very high, and then as essentially my runway shrank,
Mhm.
and that sort of if it took a week to sell something, I only had 1 day, I would exponentially decrease the price to sort of try to get that inventory off the books. But that was what I tried not to do. I would try to sort of not wait until last minute to sell. But
Right.
in in sort of your experience, does that sound like a good strategy, or are there better strategies than that?
And how do you combine these all of these factors?
You know what? Sadly, I did it in my head. So I
Oh,
would just look a lot
yeah.
of times at like a calendar, and
Yeah.
we had a few hundred properties, so you can kind of still do this, right? So I
Yeah.
would look at a calendar and I would make decisions generally about 30 days ahead for each
Yeah.
day. So if today's the beginning of the month, I'd make dates on the first week, second week, third week, fourth week, right? And
Yeah.
it was all intuitive. It was just like kind of like the way you count cards, honestly, right?
Yeah.
So you're looking at, okay, I know the probability I know, let's say a guest house. A guest house has a 1 to 2 day booking window. So
Yeah.
today is already the day. So I'm okay, right? Because I know last minute bookings happen for guest houses. So I'll
Right.
I'll keep the price probably within a 20% range of what it is today for the
Right.
next 2 days. But if it's a villa, I'm really screwed, right? If it's a villa that's
Yeah.
empty today, I know that the normal booking window is about 2 weeks. I'll have 1 day left. So if it's at 200, I'll probably drop it to like $80 or something in order to get that inventory sold. And
Yeah.
I would also take into account by looking at the booking pace. I can't really count the traffic traditionally on Airbnb efficiently for each particular listing. So I'd look at the booking pace, look at how often do I get bookings, and that would be a proxy for understanding what the traffic for that particular listing would be. Then I would say, okay, I have A plus traffic, I have
Mm-hmm.
a short booking window, I have a lot of runway, I make the price high, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that way I'll get a high price. But if I don't have a lot of traffic, I have a very long booking window. I have no runway left. I have to get this sold because tomorrow expires. Then I drop the price really, really low, like exponentially low. And
I
I'm always trying to like get it so that the probability is like in my back of my mind above 50%, right? So if I
right.
made the probability function above 50%, then
Yeah, you're probably missing one very crucial part. I can really relate to that. I think the other part is when you get a booking, you probably map it with your belief, right?
uh-huh.
Uh, when you make a yeah, when you
Yes,
do yeah, so that the other part. I think the two part is like yeah, you have a model. Second part is like you kind of try to correct them,
the feedback
and
model. Yeah.
yeah. So it actually, yeah, that's exactly how the algorithm works. But I can see this is a very smart way, and I see that so back in those days, I was talking to some hotel chain managers, either from Marriott or Hilton, I don't remember.
Mhm.
But they that's exactly what they do. Like the revenue managers, they look at the data not necessarily from real time, but they got this whole book,
Okay.
and they would send out this update maybe every week
I see. I see.
to their branches. That this was before like beyond pricing time. Nowadays, they may not, they may change, but
I heard about
that
it. And that kind of opens up another question, which is like these apps like Beyond Pricing and Pricing Lab, would they ever
yeah,
be as good as you guys are? Because I'm thinking like, doesn't Airbnb just have so much more data than something like
mm,
Beyond Pricing? They can see much more than these apps. So why would these apps even be competitive to what Airbnb could do?
they are because in some areas, for example, like I said, there's a issue with recognizing events, and Price Lab and pricing, they tend to aggregate that
Yeah.
events and try to correct that.
Okay.
Um, so in some segments, they could be better than Airbnb, but overall, they can't because they just don't have enough data. And in machine learning, not the best algorithm, but the one who have the most data win.
Should be able to win. Okay,
Yeah.
that's also what I thought. Okay, cool. And just kind of like I saw that you had a patent with Max too as well, and that was also on your LinkedIn. You had a patent for automated database record activation using predictive modeling of database. Actually, it's what does that mean, and what how did that patent work? I'm very curious.
Yeah, it just describe the in a sense like how you price it, how you make a very simple pricing.
Uh huh.
Um, but this one is very focused on last minute inventory. It's kind of like the hotel industry called a distress model,
Okay.
when you have to recognize that you have a lot of expiring date that are coming up, and so you should adjust the price based on a machine learning model. So
Okay.
yeah, in makes sense. It's like kind of a distress model uh, plus some fancy database techniques.
Okay, okay. I remember that was the entire business model for like Hotel Tonight, which later I think Airbnb acquired too as well, right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So they're doing that. Plus they yeah essentially they buy. I don't know. I don't know. But it sounds like it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
This has been very fascinating. Let me go around and see if anybody else has any questions. Let's go over to Lilith. Lilith, any questions for Mr. Kim at the moment, based on what we've heard so far?
Um, Actually, I'm curious regarding how many like you used chatbot, right?
Yeah.
But if there is any like specific questions, how you actually adjust like perhaps how many template you have or something that is there, yeah, I I don't know whether the chatbot can do a negotiation or not. I mean, for the guest,
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes the guest asks for lower price or something like that. How will you do about that? Yeah.
Yeah. So chatbot negotiation is a novel idea, and actually, there's people at Facebook that have tried to do that. So we can learn how these marketplace sellers negotiate the price, emulate that. For us, we not at that point that sophisticated yet. We still do a lot of these templates, as you can see, and in order to cover, let's say 70% of the questions, you have to create about a few hundred intents. So it's still quite a labor-intensive process. However, we are studying a better way to build chatbot. Practically, these intent are very useful because suppose like a guest asking you in the middle of the night, you can like the one who send respond like a message is better than the other nine that doesn't. So it increases your competitiveness. It increases your response rate. It shows that you care about the guest. For example, if you have a guest that maybe having a trouble with no hot water at night, and you can instead of responding them there, you send them a hotline number. Then it actually help with customer service. So the quick answer is like, you have to be very thoughtful. We just give you the tool to do that, to be more thoughtful.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lois, for the question. Let's go next to Aldo just joined us. Okay. Hi, Aldo. How you doing? Aldo, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask Mr. Kim?
I think not at the moment. I think that everyone asked. Thank you, Mr. Kim, for your time and your knowledge.
Okay. Let's go to Nadia. Nadia, over on your side.
Hello, thank you. No, at the moment I don't have anything, but thank you very much for all the insights you given.
Okay. To Vinny.
Yeah, I have one question, maybe, Mr. Kim, regarding the chatbot. Actually, I was fascinated regarding on the topic of NLP. I was wondering to what extent can we replace because hospitality, of course, is one of the oldest industry, and there aren't many like technological innovations in that aspect. But to what extent can we create a chatbot that is able to at least support human and provide hospitality in a novel way? Are there any potential in the or patterns that you're seeing from the data set that you have?
Yeah, sure. I think there is so in terms of hospitality, I mean, chatbot has been, when I do some research, it's been around for a long time. I guess there's a huge corporation that has been sending text messages. There has been, experiment with text messages chatbot. And recently there's like, there's a device made by Amazon, right? It's called Alexa, and Alexa is very hopeful. It's one of the big hopes for the hotel industry that we can put one Alexa there, and they can replace the receptionist, and they can bring delight experience to the guest. I see some places are experimenting with it. I also see some Airbnb hosts actually put Alexa in the room, and it seems that they are. My suspect is that they modifying the Alexa to try kind of to listening to the noise, kind of doing noise aware thing there, but I'm not sure. because I just found an Alexa in the middle of the hallway, it's not in the living room. My real experience. So so I guess yeah, Alexa is could potentially change the hotel industry. There is like nowadays there's also robots that are sitting in the hallways, kind of checking guests, and I'm sure that we'll see more hotels adopting these kind of technologies because to win the world we need like a touchless check-in now. And having a chatbot who can respond, who can talk to you in your native language is very, very uh, you know, crucial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe one more, just a short question. So I'm also dealing with NLP in some of my projects. As far as I know, maybe to recognize text, one of the most state-of-the-art model is BERT, B-E-R-T, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
from Google. Was
Yeah.
it? What do you think? Do you have a favorite model when dealing with NLP, or do you resort to using transfer learning using BERT?
My the model we are still using is quite out of date. Yeah, BERT is the latest and coolest things that people are doing. I nowadays I don't keep up with the model as much. I guess BERT would be the way to go. uh, uh, but also there are ones made by OpenAI. Yeah, that are newest. I think I haven't had time to look at it yet. But my advice is that if we are a hospitality in the company, we used OpenAI models instead of reinventing our own.
Oh yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim.
yeah, but it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to build one and play with it.
All right,
Yeah.
very good. And thank you very much, Vidi, for the question. Over to Bayu. Any questions on your side, sir?
Um, my question.
Actually,
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, for me, currently our project or our problem, what we have, because mostly we are using Airbnb, so we are just discovered that actually Airbnb give our listings a lot of views or in terms of search results. So I'm actually wondering, probably how Airbnb is trying to match search result to a user, or how Airbnb set goals for each search, because I think it's always changed. We always thought that Airbnb always look for the highest conversion rate to booking rate, but sometimes it's randomly just change the search result. So can you explain maybe just how does search on Airbnb works, and what is the goal actually?
So in general, Airbnb. So I think Airbnb also I had a blog post explaining this about their search algorithms. Basically, they would an ultimate goal is to maximize the number of transactions, meaning that there's a guest, there's a certain set of guests, and there's a certain set of listings. You want to maximize the total number of transaction with this. So if you prioritize one way or another, it will not be optimal. Maybe the best listing is not always the best in terms of um, the total utility, and so they would they do. I back in those days, um, the yeah, there's some work that trying to find the listing that mostly match with the guest. So let's say guest want 2 nights, they would find the listing that fit that 2 nights the most.
Mhm.
It's kind of somehow help the total. The host will be very happy if they have a guest to fill in the gap.
Mm.
Having a calendar which is with a little dot makes host not happy, right? So there's this optimization like that. And overall, like the goal of the system is we do a lot of ranking change. Every time we make a change, we would run A/B testing, and it will split the half without the change and the other half with the change, and try to evaluate all these fluctuations and analyze all these segments and see how it can improve. And so it's quite like experimental, and things change very fast. Um, but in general, try to optimize for photos, the first photos, for the title. Well, have a lot of people click on it. More inviting pictures, more inviting title would help. Um, uh, yeah, and also have a good response rate. Yeah, be responsive. It's also have a good ranking. uh,
Okay. Bayu, any other questions on your side?
Yeah, actually, just a follow up because I think we know the the basic concept. Of course, Airbnb wants the transaction, but when we try to explore this search, it seems like it giving like different result than what our theory is basically. So I'm just wondering whether is it so the first assumption that we have is that the past search results and whether it's converted or not, it will be considered as ranking to our listing, right? So, for example, if we have like 10,000 view to our page and then we're not converting any booking for that, then our ranking will go down, right? But
Correct.
then when we try to prove that, it's I don't know, we just have a look at a view sample. This is not very scientific, but it looks like this bad ranking listing also sometimes pop up in the first page. So do you mean that every search is actually generated individually instead of creating those ranking, or do you think, I don't know, how probably that would work?
Um, I, so there's a lot of personalizations that could be taking place. For example, like if the persons have looked at that listing before randomly, then that could be show up again. Um, and also the price as well. Sometimes your bad listing, and based on Jing's mastermind algorithms, reduce it very low, it become a more attractive, and so um, yeah, I don't have a good answer to that.
Okay. Okay. I had a thought about that one time. So I'll parry with Bayu here, which was we saw that some listings that were not so good instantly got more traffic than listings that were very good and always got booked. So we tried to figure that out. Why is like a not good listing getting such low traffic, but a good listing are like counterintuitive, right? Good listing, not a lot of traffic. Bad listing, lots of traffic. And eventually, the way I explained it, or my theory for explaining it, was the good listing gets seen and gets booked. So it doesn't get very many views very long. It's like when there's a sale at Uniqlo, all the good stuff is seen by the first shoppers and then it's gone. But then the bad stuff that hangs around like until the very end of the sale, until the end of the season, that is seen by everybody. So then I sort of explained, okay, it's probably because of that, right? It remains in the search box always because nobody ever books it, so it just always kind of gets seen by a bunch of people. whereas the good thing is seen and it's booked and then it's removed and it's different. So
Yeah.
that's how we sort of differentiate between Airbnb search and Google search, because Google, there's always another copy of the blog post or the video, right? There's no limitation on that. But Airbnb,
Yeah.
when it's booked, it just doesn't show up anymore. So
Right.
yeah, I was wondering if. Okay. Anyhow, we've gone way over time, and I think we're just so curious because it's
Next time it should be me asking you about this algorithm because you do this so well.
I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's been one of my life hobbies to sort of think about how does Google search work and how does Airbnb search work, and
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, but okay. We'll say thank you for your time so much, Mr. Kim, today, and thank you for coming here and also showing us the wonders of your project and the journey of being an entrepreneur. And I applaud in your courage to go from a very comfortable position to starting again from the beginning, and that I think that's essentially, that I think takes a lot of determination and courage. It's a true entrepreneur. So it's definitely a pleasure to be with you today. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so I'm